Hello my dear gardening friends. Today in this video I'm going to answer some of your questions which I received recently and not so recently. My apologies, I probably took almost 2 weeks, not 2 weeks, 2 months to answer these questions. So this video would be about your questions and my resemblance with Meryl Streep. So here we go. The first question would be from Touchdown USC. Should fabric weed barrier be used with mulch in the rose garden? My answer would be it all depends on the gardener. I know that there are some rosarians who love to have collections of roses and they group roses all in one big major flower bed and they put a lot of mulch on that flower bed, and through the growing season they do not group roses tied together and you see a lot of mulch as a result. It's not me. But you know, everybody grows their gardens as they want. So in that case, if I would be such a gardener, I would be using mulch because I don't want to fight weeds on all that bare territory of mulch. But I would not use a weed barrier under the roses because there is so much going on under the canopy of roses during the year. We constantly dig in fertilizer, we remulch, we put whatever we are putting. I'm putting a well decomposed cow manure, so there is always activity under the canopy of roses. That's why I will never put the weed barrier, plus it interferes with the root system. In my garden I used there were several spaces I used weed barrier. When we were installing that patio, stoned patio, I believe I laid the weed barrier underneath the stones because it's, you know, it's time consuming to weed constantly on a regular basis. And I used the weed barrier fabric on our brick path too. That I did too, because I don't want to spend time weeding. But with roses, I am the gardener who loves to plant my plants tight together and not to see really the ground underneath them. Right now in front of my house I have fairly new flower bed which I developed I believe 3 years ago. And this year I went ahead and I just cut all the plants which I didn't want there and I covered the soil with mulch. But I know that eventually that mulch is not going to be visible because all the plants will take over. I have 8 roses growing there and they're in their baby stage right now. So you can see the visual update on how my roses are doing there. They're doing great, by the way. So that's my opinion about weed barrier and roses in the rose beds. Let's go to the second question. Ooh, my computer went to sleep. The second question is, Cecilia Smith asked me, "Hello Olga, I planted my DA bare root roses in containers but did not add mycorrhizae fungi or any starter. I know that you need to add mycorrhizae to help promote healthy roots. Other than digging them back out of their containers, is there anything I can do?" Interesting question. So my answer would be there is somebody in this flower. Or maybe not. I hear some noise. Okay, whatever. So my answer would be there are things which we absolutely need to do for our roses, for them to thrive. And then we have these cherries on the cake, which will enhance the health and beauty of our roses, but there is no way that we absolutely need to do that. So in my opinion, mycorrhizae fungi is that type of thing. It will help the roots of the rose to extend further, to be able to collect more nutrients and to thrive better if you sprinkle those fungi on the roots of bare root roses during planting time. But if you don't do it, your rose is not going to die next day. It's one of those extras you can do just to enhance the beauty and health of your roses. So if you didn't do, as I didn't do on my Roald Dahl 5 roses, which I planted in the front, I forgot to do the mycorrhizae fungi. So I didn't do it, and I didn't dig my roses out. I just let them be and used those fungi on other plants in my garden. And they are thriving. There's no problem with them whatsoever. The same, I believe, with the root starter. It's just extra. If you have a very healthy, rich soil, you can do that, but just keep in mind that this is extra. And there is absolutely no need to dig your roses back out of their pots, supply them with mycorrhizae fungi and put them back in. That would be just extra job, and it can be quite traumatic again for your roses. So that's my answer. Let's move to question number 3. Shirley Nell asked me this. I live in 7B, Alabama. When can I move some DA roses that I planted in the wrong spot? Well, the general rule of moving any plant in the garden is in the time when it is, the weather is least stressful for the well-being of those plants. So out of 4 seasons, we have spring, summer, fall and winter. The most stressful ways or impossible ways to move a plant would be winter, because the soil is frozen, so you can't dig up the plant from the frozen soil. Physically, you cannot do that. And summer. In summer, we have strong temperatures, we have beaming sun, very often we have drought conditions, so there is a lot of stress on the plant to produce well in summer, and that's why you can move a rose if you have to in summer, but then you have to do extra protection for it for first week against the sun and water it well for the first year. But the best time to move roses would be spring or fall. I transplanted roses both in spring and in fall, and they were thriving equally well in my garden. So no winter, no summer. If you have to do it, and you have to do it in summer, do it, but you have to realize that that year you have to pay particular attention to your rose. Next question. Rosa Lees said, "Hi Olga, as I watch your videos, especially ones with roses, I can't help but think you really look like the young Meryl Streep." That's not even a question, that's just an interesting remark. And let me tell you, so many people tell me that I look like Meryl Streep when she was young. Probably when I age, I will look like her when she's old now, you know. And I always disregarded that. I always thought, really? But then my daughter, one day, after listening to another comment about Meryl Streep comparison, she pulled on the internet the young photograph of Meryl Streep, and here it is, by the way. And then she put it side by side with my picture from my wedding when I was young. And I looked at it and I said, oh my gosh, we do look the same. So here we go. And you know how I use that comparison, that likeness to my advantage? Since Meryl Streep is such a fashionable lady, you know, she has access to designers and advisors on fashion. I look at her wardrobe and I see what suits her very well, what she looks really good in, especially color palettes. And I think that the same thing would be looking good on me, and it does. Whatever suits her looks on me. So she works like a role model for me. I look at her, I study her palette, and then I apply it to my wardrobe. So that's a little trivia about me looking like a famous Meryl Streep. Another question would be from Galina Ganiv. Do you spray a new bare root rose just after planting? A good question. Your rose arrive in your garden and you have your favorite spray and you're ready to spray. Well, guess what? All the roses which are arriving into your garden from reputable rose companies are treated before arriving to your garden. For example, I believe David Austin roses are dipped in fungicide solution before they are shipped to us. So there is no need whatsoever to spray new roses when they arrive. And plus spraying, any spraying, natural, systemic spray, whatever you're using in your garden, it is extra stress to a degree on a plant. So you don't want to do extra stress on your freshly planted roses, because they just went through stress of shipping, uprooting from their native land, getting adjusted in your garden. So you don't want to do extra pressure on those roses. Leave them alone. They will not get sick right away during their first year. And later in the year, when you have to address any issues, you can do your spraying. Another one would be, Keep Trying asked me almost 2 months ago, sorry, Keep Trying, do you have a preferred color palette for you, a palette you follow? If so, what colors? I like my garden green. I like my garden calm, and I like my garden without red color. Oops, opinionated gardener I am here. Yes, those juicy red, dark red colors of the rose. I don't know, I'm very impartial to them. So I'm looking at my azalea here. Look how beautiful she is. She is pinkish. She is gorgeous. And by the way, somebody else was talking about azalea, and I was mentioning my azalea right there, which is already past her blossoming time. This azalea is just at her prime time. So I want to show you the difference between azalea pruned and azalea not pruned. This one, which is blossoming so gloriously, probably was pruned by previous owners. We inherited her. And then I never pruned it. And you see what the habit of growth we have here? Very laxed, very leggy. For some people it would be unattractive. And then next to this azalea, we have another azalea, the white azalea. And that thing looks really miserable right now, but we have to be patient. I just gave it a major haircut because that azalea is white. And one suggestion, if you want to introduce azaleas in your garden, do yourself a favor and don't buy white azalea, because when white azaleas age, they generally don't shed their blossoms very well. So all the blossoms stay on the stems, and you know, some gardeners take them off, some gardeners don't. But white azaleas are particularly bad when they just finish blossoming. Plus that azalea was sick. She had scales plaguing her. So I just gave it a nice big haircut, took all the scales out and cleared it all. Plus improved the shape of that azalea. But look at the shape. You see, when I regularly was trimming every year that azalea, and look what a difference in shapes there is. So for people who are thinking about the flowering hedge, do consider azaleas, because they do keep their shape very well. They do have attractive foliage during the year. You do have unpleasant moments of azaleas not bearing their dead, meaning they don't hide their blooms. But when they're in bloom, they are gorgeous. They look wonderful. They fall under the weight of those flowers, and they are just delightful things. And if you trim them, they keep shape very well, and they become nice and tight. That's what we need for hedge, right? And the last very interesting and very funny message I received from the accidental cook, and this is what she said. Not very many garden videos actually talk about and show the grunt work involved in producing strikingly charming gardens with thriving and healthy plants, if at all. But this is why I love this channel. Olga is always authentic and true in all that she shares with us in her videos. No camera crews, no perfect makeup, no perfectly manicured nails. To be honest, many of us who spend time in our gardens doing actual work don't look glamorous, because it isn't glamorous work, but it is great for the soul. Olga, thank you for all you do and keeping it 100% with all of us. Side note, who needs makeup when you have glowing natural beauty both in and out? And there is a holy emoji here. God bless and stay ever authentic. Hot. So lovely. What a lovely message. Thank you so much for doing it. Your support and your joy for gardening brings me a lot of joy. And the fact that I can change people's hearts and encourage them to appreciate gardens is good, I think. It's a good mission, one of the missions I have in life. So enjoy your gardens, and I will see you next time.